Hi, this is Ronda Degaust with LifePotentialDevelopments.com, international NLP trainer, coach, columnist, and author of How to Heal from Years of Criticism, Insults, Abuse, and Rejection. With me is Roger Ellerton, a well-respected NLP trainer, coach, speaker, management consultant, and author of 5 NLP books. Welcome back, Roger.
Thanks, Rhonda. Great to be with you.
In our previous interviews, Roger, we discussed knowing your needs, which you nicely packaged in an acronym RIGHTS. And we also discussed preparing in advance, and that is when you already know some information about a person, how they interact in the world, for example, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, towards and away from, and also creating a space of trust and safety so that both can feel safe to express freely their needs and concerns. And finally, asking questions if you don't understand or you disagree. So in the next chapter of your book, it's titled Bridge the Gap. And of course, that's assuming the gap still exists. In this chapter, it describes to close the gap in a meaningful and respectful manner. So perhaps, Roger, you can give the viewers some insight as to what is covered in this chapter.
Great, thanks, Rhonda. I like the fact you said if the gap still exists, because I think you've been in situations where you're ready to purchase and the salesperson's not really been listening to you or watching what's going on and continues to talk, continues to present according to his or her selling strategy or buying strategy. And the key thing here is, even if we're with family or co-workers or whatever, pay attention, because quite possibly they've already bought into your idea, and to continue talking, you may actually talk themselves out of it. So if you have the deal at hand, just seize it. The thing I want to talk about today is what bridging the gap is. The way I look at it is it's really a belief change. I have presented something, an idea, a product, or service, and the other person believes that it's not for them at this time. I need to help them change that belief towards, hey, my product has some value, and potentially to actually accept it. So as you know, in NLP, we do a lot of work with beliefs. And in fact, we have what's called a belief process, belief change process. And it really follows the following, which I think I'd probably be best if I illustrate with something of the season. As you know, we're taping this in December, so potentially we'll talk about Santa Claus. And at one time, many of us had a belief about Santa Claus. And so the first stage is that we have a strongly held belief, and that is about Santa Claus. And the second stage is that you pick up information. Perhaps you've talked with your friends at the schoolyard or your siblings or whatever. And because of this other information you're getting, you're starting to have some doubts or questioning your belief. You're still holding on to it, but you're starting to question it. And then you get more information and potentially some teasing. And so you're now moving into the third stage. And so the third stage is, well, I still believe, but I'm open to other alternatives because I don't like this teasing. And then finally the fourth stage is where you accept a new belief that really preserves as many benefits as possible from the old belief, but eliminates or mitigates a lot of the problems that you were experiencing with that belief. So it's a 4-step process that you believe something, you're open to questioning, you're open to exploring alternatives, and then, of course, you take on a new belief. And as the saying goes, everything you've learned so far still counts. So we've talked about a number of different things that are in my book. There are other things as well. So all of those techniques that we've talked about still count, still help us move through help ourselves and other people move through this belief change process. And some of them, of course, as you know, we talked about perceptual positions, precision questioning. We didn't talk about chunking, but that's in my book, and reframing, which we haven't talked about, but I thought potentially we could talk about it today. And that's to give people some idea in terms of how we can assist people going through a belief change or actually bridging the gap, as I phrased this chapter. And one of the things with reframing is we're reframing all the time. I mean, how often does it happen in the summer? We haven't had rain for a while, and all of a sudden someone says, oh, darn, it's raining, I can't do this, I can't go golfing or whatever. And then someone pipes up and says, yeah, but just think of the farmers. They need this rain, otherwise the price of vegetables will increase. Oh, yeah, that's right. So essentially a reframe to give you a different perspective on something that's occurring in your life. And as I say, it goes on all the time. And for me, there's a couple of key things with reframing. One is to maintain rapport, and that's a space of trust and safety. If we don't have that, people aren't going to listen to us when we offer them a different way to look at something. Another thing, of course, is to, at least I think, when I go to give a person a different perspective, instead of telling them, I like to ask them a question. And usually I begin by saying, do you mind if I ask you a question? And, of course, that opens the door for that. The other thing to keep in mind is I may give you or somebody else a different perspective that I think is awesome. However, in your model of the world, it's yeah, so, and it doesn't really change things at all. So from a reframing perspective, and just again to put reframing into perspective, the way I look at it is we put a frame around something within our existence. We do this all the time about beliefs or about people or whatever, so we bound it in some way. And then the belief change or reframing is, the first thing is we give them something to think about that starts to loosen those fence posts. In other words, I'm open to questions, I'm open to doubt. Or we may give them something where they've already been in that stage, and now we give them something that actually encourages them to look at new alternatives, which means they have to look at something bigger than that they were looking at. And then potentially the final one is where we look at a new belief, and of course they're taking that on within this new expanded reality for them. So reframing and everything we talked about before can help you at any one of these stages. So having said that, given a bit of an introduction to reframing, I thought maybe I'd challenge you today if I could.
Sure.
And so Ronda, may I ask you some questions? You should be asking that one, but let me give you a couple of opportunities here, and we'll see how well you do from a reframing perspective.
Okay.
So let's suppose I'm a coach, or I could be someone in a helping profession, and I come to you as my personal coach or a friend, and I say to you something along the lines of, when I fail to help a client, I feel so incompetent.
Well, as a child, did you ever consider yourself incompetent when you just stumbled and fell when you were first learning to walk? Or perhaps maybe, if you helped a client with a goal that increased their income they wanted to increase their income to 50%, but you only increased it to 45%. Would you still feel incompetent?
Certainly something for me to think about, certainly something to challenge my belief that I expressed a few minutes ago. So awesome, great. Let me give you something else you may want to consider. So let's suppose we're in a negotiation or sales perspective, and I just turn to you and I say, Rhonda, my choice is best.
Is it conceivable that you're not aware of the possible choices that may be out there, or perhaps maybe satisfy your needs even better? Or are you aware that the long-term impacts on your choices?
Oh, I like that one because that takes a time frame. I may be looking at it in a very short time frame, and what you've done is you've expanded the frame for me to look at something much larger. I think that was an awesome one. Good for you on that one. So let me give you a different perspective yet again. So let's suppose you and I are both running for political office. We're political opponents, and we're actually in a debate. Mm-hmm. And so I turn to the audience and I say the following about you. I say, my opponent has held this position far too long.
Well, that kind of sounds like the situation that Ronald Reagan, get you guys mixed up. See, I hold you in high office.
All right.
Ronald Reagan faced in, I think it was 1984 or so, and he was running for U.S. president against Walter Van Dale. And I keep saying that wrong. In my head, I can't get it right. And in his response, he said something like, I won't hold my opponent's youth or inexperience against him, something unlike that. I think you have it more laid out in your book of exactly what was said.
My book on this one.
Oh, yes, I have. That's why I remember it, but not necessarily perfectly. So they can read it in your book if they want to know more, because you have lots of examples of reframes in your book, and of course along with the chunking, like you said, and different things that can open and expand their horizons by reading about NLP. So If you want more information, read on this stuff. You can, chapter 7 in Roger's book has more on reframing. And thanks for watching. And if you want to listen to more discussion, search out the Win-Win Influence title.